Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. So a couple of points, a couple of questions that emerge out of the coroner's report. One of them is, was Kiely clothed or wasn't she? Another one is, was she intoxicated or wasn't she? So we're going to deal with those in this episode. Now, the incident report, the coroner's report from the Nevada County Sheriff's Office, released yesterday, makes reference to Kiely herself, how and where she was found in the vehicle. So this is quoting from the report, quote, "She was fully clothed in a black bodysuit and green twill pants. On her right foot was a green sneaker, and a matching shoe was found nearby. She had 5 bracelets on her right wrist, 3 metal chains around her neck, including one with a constellation-shaped pennant." Now, what's already clear from that is that she was wearing what she was wearing to the party. I think the only difference is she wasn't wearing the hoodie. She wasn't wearing any hoodie. But she was certainly wearing what you saw her wearing in the last photo. Then it goes on to say, except for the sneaker being off the left foot, the clothing appears relatively normal in position. There was no evidence of head trauma or of SA, and body scans didn't show any internal injuries. The toxicology report showed positive results for nicotine, caffeine, and THC, a molecule in marijuana. So do you see the contradiction between the report and what AWP said or didn't say about Kiely Rodni's clothing? Do you remember Kiely Rodni's clothing coming up at some point in the narrative? Wasn't Kiely supposed to have been naked? And also, wasn't she supposed to have been strapped in? On September 10th, AWP participated in a panel and Doug was asked directly, did Kiely have clothes on? Now, before we deal with the answer to that question, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do like, share, leave a comment. Later today, I'll be covering the Adnan Syed case, and tomorrow we'll be having Terry on to do a special debrief and a special deep dive on the Kiely Rodni case. I've actually been holding back certain content for this, and so don't miss it. Saturday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. And let's get started. So Doug is asked, this was September the 10th, Doug was asked directly, did Kiely have clothes on?
That's a yes or no question.
Well, it clearly is. Did Kiely have clothes on, yes or no? Do you think AWP perhaps didn't know the answer to that question? Do you think that when Nick Rinn dived down there and they took footage, that they couldn't actually say whether she had clothes on or not? Maybe didn't get a good look. Do you think if they were shooting a documentary that sort of focused on the vehicle and also focused on what is inside the vehicle, that they wouldn't look in the vehicle and wouldn't see the human remains and know whether they were clothed or not, right? So it's quite a simple question. Were they clothed or not? Well, surely they knew, so why not just answer the question? Do you think it would make sense that AWP knew the answer to that? As I say, Nick Rinn had seen Kiely and they'd spent an undisclosed amount of time actually filming the scene for their documentary. We also see blurred images, sort of blurred out footage of Kiely through the window. So that footage was also edited on video. Someone was looking at that, looking at all the footage, editing it, putting it in line, which is another opportunity to see what you're seeing, to seeing Kiely. And so because they're blurred out, obviously there's enough information there to say, well, we can't really show this to our audience. And Nick Rinn actually refers to seeing Kiely's shoes in the video as well. So through both windows in the side area of the hatch, Nick Rinn got at least 2 perspectives of Kiely and also filmed 2 perspectives of Kiely. So was she wearing clothes or not? So how do you think Doug answered this question? And I will put a link to the video that addresses this. It is about 35 minutes into it, but I'll also put the timestamp there. So he's asked, was Kiely wearing clothes? Verbatim, did she have clothes on? Doug responds with a big sigh, and he says, I cannot answer that. Why not say yes? Or why not say no? But he says, I can't answer that. Then he's asked another follow-up question. Can you answer if she had shoes on? Another very simple question. Yes, she had shoes on. Yes, she had one shoe on. Yes or no? Doug says the same thing. I cannot. Then there's like a long pregnant pause. And he says, I want to. In other words, I want to answer it. And you'd imagine if he's saying, I want to answer it, that he doesn't know the answer. But then he says, it's just, I have to protect the investigation. And I'm not trying to interfere with anything that they have going on. Naturally, Doug's cryptic answer led some people to assume Kiely was naked. And because, why on earth, if she was wearing clothes, wouldn't you say so? But if she was naked, you might say, I don't really want to answer the question because it might jeopardize the investigation. I want to sort of protect the integrity of what's going on. But if she is wearing clothes and it is an accident, what needs to be protected? Why wouldn't you just say that? Do you mind if I offer a suggestion? If you dictating the narrative and you're saying you're saying, yes, well, we are dictating the narrative. And if you're doing all you can to control the narrative, and you've said you're doing that too, and you've gone to all this trouble to make a video and to appear at length on crime channels, and you've reinforced this idea that we think it's foul play, and you basically are setting up your foul play narrative and doing so very well, very successfully. I mean, that's the narrative, that's the default narrative right now. It's still the default narrative. So why would you want to undermine it by being explicit and by undoing all your work, by saying, yes, she was found wearing the clothes she was last seen in, or it's true and it's a fact that she was wearing clothes. So why would you want to tell the truth and shoot your foul play video in the foot when you could just not answer the question and allow it to gain a kind of traction, and it's an environment where exactly that would happen. So why interfere with that? In other words, this is a way potentially to give your prophecy legs by not answering critically, by not addressing the issue critically and completely and transparently. And please, in an accident investigation, saying what you saw isn't going to undermine or interfere with an accident investigation. Even in a legitimate foul play investigation, a criminal investigation, saying that the person you saw had clothes on, which is what you say all the time. I mean, in the investigation into Kiely, you say, these are the clothes she was last seen in. So saying, well, these were the clothes she was found in, that's not going to compromise even a criminal investigation. So why wouldn't you say anything? By being cryptic about whether Kiely was clothed, it tends to feed the salacious and sensational idea that she wasn't clothed and all that that could mean. One microchannel stated as fact 4 days later, so the 14th of September, that Kiely was found naked and got himself 48,000 views, one of the most views of any of his videos. And yet all Doug had to do here was say, answer to that, yes, she was clothed. Did he not know? How could he not know? We've been told all along about so much additional information that's being held back that will blow everyone's minds. Okay, so where is it? Do you think that whole scenario gives a sort of artificial support to a narrative? Because now that the investigation is over, do you think we'll get full disclosure, or will we continue to see, well, let's have that narrative just continue on its own? We've controlled the narrative, we've shaped the narrative, well, let's let that narrative go where it wants to go. Let's not interfere with that now. Do you think the game has been played a certain way and actually won? Do you think that this entry into the true crime community. A game was played, the game was won, and now it's on to the next game. Well, Yolisa Fuentes was the next game, and it was played exactly the same way. What about the game after that? Is that what it is? Is true crime a game? A game to control a narrative? A game to be the spokesman for a particular case? Hey, everybody come to us. We will tell you the truth about this. Isn't that what people assume? We're going to get first-hand, direct, the best knowledge from here. Well, are you? Covering the Kiely Rodni case has become a toxic minefield. Normally, after the revelation of an incident report and autopsy, I would spend a fair bit of time dealing with new insights and new intertextualities. But instead, I'm going to allow the case to simmer and cool down a little and return to it on Saturday, hopefully with Terry present, for a deep dive. So don't miss Adnan Syed, No DNA Means No Crime, later today at around about 1 p.m. Pacific time. So one more thing to address is this idea was Kiely not drunk? And the reason we say that is because the autopsy report refers to post-mortem toxicology on liver tissue positive for ethanol, and then it says possibly all or part from decomposition. So they're saying the ethanol is possibly all from decomposition or part from decomposition. What does that mean? Well, it means exactly what it says, that some of the ethanol found in her, some of it is from decomposition, but some of it may not be. You cannot draw an inference from that she wasn't intoxicated. You can equally not draw an inference that she was intoxicated to such an extent that it would be nefarious. The only real conclusion we can draw is that she was using marijuana and possibly also alcohol. And given what was found in the vehicle and given what was reported, I don't think it's a stretch to say that she probably was somewhat drunk and also high at the same time. So beware of those saying that this proves she wasn't drunk. It definitely does not do that. So I'm not going to take it further than that, but I want to say one more thing. And you may have noticed in many of my videos, I've referenced a scene from The Matrix Reloaded where Neo tells Morpheus,
"That's impossible. The prophecy tells us."
It was a lie, Morpheus. The prophecy was a lie. It was all another system of control.
I don't believe that.
I put those clips purposefully into these videos, right, for a reason. And do you want to know why? Do you know in reference to what? What prophecy was a lie in this case? Also, what is a prophecy? A prophecy is a prediction of what will happen in the future. It's a prediction, a forecast, a prognosis, a divination. In effect, I was saying the crystal gazing foul play theory, a prophecy essentially intended to control the narrative, to control people who were paying attention to this case, also intended to supersede the investigation. It wasn't true. It wasn't accurate. It wasn't even logical. It has been set up and surrounded by dictations and distortions, liars and liars, or folks telling stories to their followers who simply couldn't or wouldn't recognize the truth, even if it was a frying pan hitting them in the face. Morpheus responds to this thing of the prophecy was a lie by saying, I don't believe that.
It was all another system of control.
I don't believe that.
What Morpheus is saying is that he doesn't believe that it's a lie. And so do you see, I was also making a prediction of my own, that the prophecy would turn out to be a lie, and all the Morpheuses would still refuse to believe that. This is where true crime is now, and this is where our society is now. I will believe whatever I want to believe, and if the popular narrative says something, I will continue to believe the popular narrative, and nothing will convince me otherwise. There is a saying, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. I respect the wisdom in that, which is why I feel one should simply not engage with people who can't or won't think rationally. Their world isn't rational, but don't make the mistake of thinking they're idiots. They're stubborn, and perhaps like Morpheus, they're idealists. Deluded maybe, but not bad people. A prophecy is a defense against anxiety, against the unknown, and also a protection against being cast out. You can argue that this channel has been the outlier, and that others have wanted to be warm and fuzzy in the belly of the prophecy, attaching themselves to the big honeybee and the big honey pot, and they have been. So who cares if it's wrong? I belong to a community, and it's big and strong, and the honey tastes good, and makes me feel safe that I know my world, and my world knows me. There is social utility in telling people what they want to hear, because many cannot handle the truth.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
And so here's a message to those in my community. I don't think we can expect them to take responsibility for that. What we can expect is for it to continue to happen in future, not just in true crime, but beyond. And here's another prediction. As reality darkens around us, and you know it is darkening, we are right now in the year 2022, in the 21st century. We're dealing with big topics like pandemic, nuclear war in Europe. We're experiencing a kind of Mordor taking over Middle-earth, not in Lord of the Rings, not in a Tolkien story, in reality. As the shadow passes over our world, and it is doing that, expect people to cling harder and faster to their delusions and fairy tales. That, after all, is the nature of fairy tales. You hide inside them. You feel safe inside them. If you insist on believing in fairy tales, if you insist on avoiding reality, you create a space for a nightmare. You create a place for that nightmare to grow unfettered, unopposed. And then one fine day when, poof, you're without your fairy tale, you find you have nothing to defend against the nightmare because you have no practice doing that. You've had no practice thinking critically and living in the real world. And just as the fairy tale has existed and persisted and protected you for so long, so has the nightmare grown in scale and scope and developed resilience against fairy tales. And somewhere between the games played between fiction and nightmare, somewhere between the distractions and smoke blown up arses, facts do actually exist. And when they eventually intrude, and they will,
when they come, and they will, they'll come for you.
And you will not be prepared. Our world is no longer prepared for the time we are now in. That is the cost of extended holidays from the real world. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.